Guys, hey everybody, I'm Dr. Lauren Kolowski. I have the immense privilege to be here today with the Dr. Lisa Palmer. And the reason I had to get her to join me today is multiple reasons, but this lady, she is my mentor, she is my colleague, and I'm so blessed to call her a friend. This is the kind of intro that you have to have written down because I can't remember all the things I need you to know about this amazing woman. So we're gonna hop in right away. And let me give an intro over why you are blessed to be listening here today. Dr. Lisa, she is the owner of the largest holistic practice in Central Florida. She's a dynamic force in the realm of natural health. With almost 2 decades of experience, she has grown her practice from a solo operation to a thriving $3.5 million enterprise with 4 associate practitioners. Based in Orlando, Florida, Dr. Palmer is dedicated to empowering chiropractors, health coaches, and naturopaths by providing innovative systems for new patient marketing, effective business strategies, comprehensive coaching, all the things that has made her my mentor. Because when you see someone successful, you want to learn from someone who's successful, right? So if you wonder, people who are asking me, why is she your mentor? This is why. Through Quantum Nutrition Academy, Palmer Natural Health, and Dr. Mama Bear, Dr. Palmer offers online courses, coaching, masterminds to help holistic practitioners increase their patient base, boost revenue, achieve work-life balance. Her mission is to equip natural practice owners with the tools they need to enhance their practices and improve the health of their communities. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you all to Dr. Lisa Palmer. Thank you, Dr. Lisa.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Lauren, for that awesome intro. I appreciate that. I love that we're friends and colleagues, and I am here to help and serve your community, and I know we have a fun topic to get into as well.
We do. So I think we better hop right into that first and cover that because that's what a lot of people are ready for today. Is that okay?
Yeah, totally.
Cool. So Puffy, bloated, and tired AF is what Dr. Lisa and I decided we should talk about because I don't know about you, but when I started practice more than 14 years ago, that was a thing, but it wasn't like it wasn't as prevalent. And today, I don't know if I know a single patient who has not started care with us recently who complains of those symptoms. How about you?
Yeah, I would say chief complaints, like, number one reason why people come in is they are so tired. And then after the cupcake or the however you want to call that thing, definitely having people that have gotten puffy, gaining weight, and just can't seem to retrieve, can't seem to rebalance their health.
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it. Where 14 years into practice, first 5 years of practice, I felt like it got exponentially worse. But like you just described, nothing amplified quite like everything amplified in the past 4 years.
Right. Yeah. I mean, cases where easy for us in natural healthcare, and then just very much a challenge. And then finally patients admitting that they went against what we had discussed with them, our viewpoint on what happened over the last couple of years. And I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense on why this thing isn't getting better, why your face is super puffy, why all this weight gains happen, why all the autoimmune that we had handled seem to be cropping back up.
Absolutely. And so, from a puffy standpoint, we could call that fat, but half the time, I don't know if you would agree, but half the time, in my experience, it's not all fat or majority of fat. It is absolute lymphatic stagnation, toxic fluid in the lymphatics.
Yeah, I mean, I got into chiropractic because chiropractic's the reason I can walk and play sports and all the other good stuff. I got into holistic nutrition because I was the title. I was puffy. I, was a professional athlete, and my face started getting puffy. I started gaining 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds, 50 pounds on a 5'4" frame. Extra pounds does not look good, even though I was playing soccer, running on the field for 90 minutes, weight training, doing all the things, and I kept getting heavier and heavier. And for me, this was before all the recent stuff that happened, but for me, it was due to a toxicity affecting the gland in my brain called the pituitary gland. And that toxicity was heavy metals. It was mercury.
Wow. Yeah. And that right there is, in our realm, exactly what we're looking for. And we'll talk about quantum nutrition testing here in a bit, but just the ability to give practitioners the ability to find toxicities like that in specific organs, like you just described. When I was at my worst, from a medical perspective, they're not looking for anything like that. And if you're bloated, if you're puffy, if you're exhausted, what they're even looking for is never that fine tuned. It's never that specific. And like I said, we'll talk more about quantum nutrition testing, about how we can find specific things causing the issue from specific poisonings. And how it can be in different organ systems, and yet the puffiness that the person is feeling is, other systems of the body that are getting backed up that make them look fat and puffy. And again, half the time it's, is it developing into this fat buildup, or is it just so much toxic sludge that is making the body create that?
Right. Yeah. I mean, people think, and my background, sports medicine, I was a strength and conditioning specialist. And so, I did all the things that I thought would help, so I know some of the people on there, they're looking to lose weight. It's one of the common goals of our patients. And so I was exercising more. I was weight training more. I was reducing my fat more, because a lot of people think, okay, well, you have to eat less fat, because if you eat too much fat, then you get fat. And we know that's not true. And I was doing all the things that you're supposed to do to lose weight. And yet I was getting heavier and heavier, to the point where my personal trainer was like, okay, I'm training you really, really hard, and you're gaining more weight, and your numbers are going worse. So you must be lying to me and eating like ice cream in the closet or chocolate bars or whatever. And I'm like, I'm not. And I was trying to get ready for my wedding, right? So like I had the motivation. I want to look good for my wedding, like most brides do. And he, like, one day was in my face, and he's like, you're lying to me. You're eating chocolate and ice cream and this and this and this. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And
wow.
It was that heavy. Yeah. It was that heavy metal toxicity, because, that, like, if this is mercury, the body stores it in fat tissue, and you can do whatever you want. You can run, you can bike, you can do yoga, you can do whatever kind of exercise. But until you get the exact right supplementation to unlock that mercury, that fat tissue is very stubbornly going to stay there.
Yeah. And think about that too, Dr. Lisa, where, when you work with someone who does have a lot of excess weight on them, and they, we get to the root of the cause with quantum nutrition testing, and they do start losing it. The thing that I have to help people understand is, when you start losing weight like that, you might not feel totally awesome through that, because of all the poison that the body is so smart to try to stash away in that fat tissue. But as we lose it, then again, the reason quantum nutrition testing is amazing is because we pick up on what toxicity the body in real time is needing in order to be dealt with. Because gosh, you lose a lot of fat, you lose a lot of the protective tissue where a lot of those toxins are being stored.
Right.
So it blows my mind, the kinds of things that here today are so common, expected, like it's not rare anymore. And just for all of us to just accept that, are we just supposed to walk around life with this ball and chain of exhaustion and puffiness and bloated, and that's just how it is. I love the saying of, it might be common, but it's not normal.
Right. Well, it might be normal because it's common, but it's not healthy.
No, no. Right.
And then, I mean, we see caffeine in water now. Like, who would have thought that they put caffeine in water? I was at a rest area, and my daughter loves bubble water, seltzer water. I don't like it, but she loves it. So she's like, Mommy, can I have bubble water? I'm like, sure. And there's even a product called Bubble or something like that. And so she gets the bubble water and she's drinking in the car and she's like, Mommy. And then she gets out of the car and she's doing cartwheels and handstands and cartwheels and like running around the hotel room. And I'm thinking, what the heck is wrong with this kid? Like, we didn't drive that far. And then I grab her bubble water. I'm like, what kind of bubble water is this? And I'm reading the label and it's caffeinated.
I honestly had no idea. I had no idea.
I had no idea that there was bubble water, like seltzer water, and then there's caffeinated seltzer water. And I had a mommy fail, and we try to do our best, but we're not perfect, right? And I gave my kid caffeinated water. Like, caffeinated water didn't exist, like I didn't even know it existed.
No.
And then a lot of our patients are drinking stuff like that.
Right. Right. Wow. No, honestly, I'm over here going, uh-oh, now that's one more thing I got to check. I had no idea. So yeah. And I feel like that's a segue into all the things, you guys, that are hidden in the food supply. I mean, who would have thought caffeine would have been added to water? That's the last thing I would have ever assumed. And yet what I see is food companies, they're just always looking for some way to add a stimulant or a sugar or, and then that makes people go, well, how did I get here? How did I get into this health crisis that I'm in? And, just systematic poisoning through food, air, and water, and, what you consume in the form of, what you're drinking and what you're eating, but also what you're reading and it's just it's a toxicity load that we just keep building. We just keep adding to.
Yeah. And I acknowledge your efforts in educating moms and educating clients and educating patients on, like, how do you read food labels and what are you feeding your kids? And I love when you post, like, when you're cooking stuff for your family. I think a lot of people overcomplicate stuff. Like, I'm Italian. I don't use recipes. Like, I cook a protein. Sometimes I'll cook a vegetable. Last night I didn't. And we go from there, but I pick a really high quality protein. I'm not serving, like, I don't know, what is that? Wonder Burgers? What's that fake meat stuff called? Beyond Burger, Beyond. I'm like, okay, why are the, oh no, now we're gonna get into trouble, Lauren. Why are the vegetarians always trying to make meat products, but then they don't like meat? I don't understand. Like, why do you want if you don't like meat, why do you want a hot dog but call it a plant?
Why are we always trying to make it taste like meat? Oh yes. Yeah.
I don't understand.
That conversation does back you into trouble. Yes, it does.
It does get us in trouble. But you and I don't necessarily avoid trouble. But I don't comprehend if meat is if one viewpoint from a certain population thinks that it's bad, then why are you trying to make plants taste like meat? I don't understand.
Correct. And the approach then comes into the health realm. And I just always like to respectfully have the rebuttal over, well, I've never worked with someone with chronic disease that I was able to help them handle that as long as they remain vegan. I'm sorry. I just don't know how to, after 14 years in practice, I'm sorry. I've just never seen that before. Wow. If you have a way to show me how to do that, then
some of my sickest patients are vegan. And it's also because a lot of vegans are not balancing out their food. They're carbohydrate junkies, like they're eating the cookies and the candy and the bread and the carbs and the pastas and that kind of thing. And so, it's interesting in private practice to see, where do people start? And I think we all do this as far as quantum nutrition practitioners, is we're looking at, like, what is a patient doing that's really good? And then enforcing that and enhancing that. And then what are the things that are contributing to their symptoms, contributing to why they don't feel good, contributing to why they're so tired. And then we don't say, okay, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that. I don't do that. I know you don't do that. But instead offer, okay, instead of this thing, why don't you try this thing? Instead of having the caramel macchiato double pump extra whipped cream, extra chocolate, blah, blah, blah. Why don't you try this other thing, right? Like, we're not trying to be the food police.
Right. And, I just love to help point out to people, if this is your goal, then I'm telling you the things to eat more of or less of to accomplish your goal. I will never slap you on the wrist. You do you, boo. You, whatever you would like to do, but you told me you have this goal. So if you have this goal, these are the things we have to highlight in the diet, either lacking or too much of. And, I wonder there if we could segue, Lisa, over quantum nutrition testing, and like you said, the diet piece of it. If people keep eating what they're eating and they're shooting themselves in the foot, they will get lesser results. I mean, right? And so diet is one piece of it, but can you talk perhaps about what you found? What was the need that you saw needed to be filled that made you discover and develop quantum nutrition testing, and how that can help people in the supplementation world?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, wasn't looking to start another technique or technology, or definitely not another business. This all happened during the pandemic. And my father, woke up in the middle of the night. He slipped, he hit his head on the big wooden nightstand. And my mother called me to evaluate him. My bachelor's degree is in sports medicine, so I'm very good at working with concussions. I work with college ice hockey, college soccer, professional soccer, Super League rugby. So very good at evaluating concussions. And she asked me to evaluate him, and he checked out fine, which was great after smashing your head on the nightstand. But a couple days later, and this is when the world was a little crazy, if you guys remember back then. It seems like 10 years ago, but it really wasn't that long ago. A couple years ago, all the hospitals were on lockdown. I never thought the hospitals would close. I never thought that the world would go on lockdown. I'm sure you had the same viewpoint. And 2 days later, my dad's left side of his face started to sag, and he lost function of his left arm, and he lost function of his left leg. And I said, okay, well, this is now out of the concussion realm. This is now out of holistic healthcare realm. Now is the time that we need to take him to the emergency room and see what the heck is happening, And so we did. And so I remember the neurologist coming down in the emergency room. Now, the hospital was so packed that there were no beds open, and they actually had my dad in the ER for 2 days. The blessing of being in the ER for 2 days is the hospital's policy at the time was no visitation except in the emergency room, because the emergency room is meant for triage, right? So someone goes in there, they see what floor they need to send them to, they make sure they're not dying, and they send them to the appropriate floor. Well, with the whole hospital being full and no beds available, his floor was the ER. And we were able to be with him for 2 days. And so the neurologist comes down, the neurosurgeon comes down. He doesn't know that I'm a doctor of chiropractic. He doesn't know my husband's a doctor of chiropractic. He doesn't know that my sister's a naturopath. He doesn't know that my mother's a registered nurse and worked at one of the biggest public hospitals in Florida. He's just kind of talking out loud. And I'm glad he's talking out loud, because I can now hear what he's thinking. And so he's looking at my father's CT scan, and he's like, okay, well, I see where there was possible hemorrhaging, maybe a stroke, still not sure. To this day, they're still not sure exactly what it was. And he goes, it's interesting. If you brought him 48 hours earlier when it first happened, I would have taken a drill and drilled a hole in the base of his skull to let the blood out, and then sewed everything back up, and just like we would have maintained him. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And he goes, but it's a miracle. And he said it like he doesn't see this. He's like, it's a miracle. Your dad's brain is already healing, and I don't need to drill a hole in his skull. And so the holistic doctor in me is like, of course the body's healing, because we know that the body maybe will have a toxicity, or maybe will have an immune challenge, or maybe will have something that it needs help with, or the person just needs help with their food and their lifestyle or whatever. But it wasn't uncommon knowledge, or I'll say it a different way. I was like, yeah, the body can heal, was basically what I understand and what my family understands. But the surgeon was just like, thought it was miraculous that my dad's brain started healing already. It made me wonder how many people enter the emergency room and have that procedure done where they drill a hole in the skull to let out the blood, when they could have just watched the patient. They could have just, okay, do we need to bypass the body, or can we just let the body heal itself? And so the guy left. He's like, okay, well, there's no surgery for me to do here, so bye. And he left, and I never saw the guy again. But because my father did suffer some damage, his left arm wasn't working, his left leg, he couldn't walk, and then the left side of his face was drooping, so he was having trouble talking and swallowing. And so he did get admitted. They took him into the hospital. Finally, 2 days later, they got a bed, and the nurse told me, no problem, you can visit him. Visitation tomorrow starts at 9 a.m. And I was kind of surprised. I'm like, oh, well, she must know that I'm a doctor, and that's why, like thinking that was the reason. And I left the room, and they wheeled my dad. It was like those scenes where they wheel him down the corridor, and they're like waving from the bed. I'm like, I love you, Dad. And they're like waving. They're like rolling him in his rolly bed down the corridor of the hospital. And I'm thinking, okay, cool. I'll see him tomorrow. I leave that part of the emergency room. I go to the security desk, and something tells me just to confirm the time. And I talked to the security guard. I'm like, okay, so visitation on the ICU floor is 9 a.m. tomorrow. And he's like, no. 9:30? No. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, there's no visitation. I'm like, the nurse just told me there's visitation. And he's like, no. I'm like, well, you don't understand. I'm Dr. Palmer. And she told me there's visitation. He's like, I don't know why she told you that. That's not true. Like bawling, crying, knowing they just wheeled my father away. The hospital's on lockdown, and I don't know when I'm going to see him next.
So when did you see him next?
I didn't see him for a whole month. For a whole month. We were the family that, like, finally, when he was strong enough to stand, we figured out what side of the building he was on. We went outside in the grass, and he was like 3 stories high. We called him, and we're like, hey, Dad, we're outside your window. Can you peek through your window and wave at us? And we're all like, myself, my husband, my mother, my daughter, which is his granddaughter. We're like, hi, we love you. Tears, like.
Yeah, I did not realize it was that long. I mean,
Yeah,
I knew that whole thing, but that was that long. He didn't, like, your mother couldn't even go in?
No visitation. No.
Oh, that makes my blood pressure rise.
Yeah, man, it was tough. And like knowing that the nurse said I could, and then knowing either she lied to me or she memory lapsed, or I don't know what happened, but I like bawling like snot and tears and all that. And so how Quantum came to be was mid-hospital stay. He was having a lot of pain. They had moved his room. He bounced around to different rooms because, the nurses and the docs were understaffed. I feel bad for the hospital staff. When I finally did get to meet them, they were some really kind and nice people that were trying to do their best, but there was not enough of them. And so at one point they moved him from the ICU to like the COVID floor, and he didn't have COVID, to some other floor, to this other floor, to anyways, one of the moves, he had several moves. Whoever moved him didn't replug the bed. So his call button didn't work, and his vitals were not on because everything is controlled by this bed, right? All the devices. And he was in a lot of pain. So he actually started calling on his cell phone. He had a cell phone. He called 911, and the dispatcher finally got a hold of the nurse at the nurse station, and they went in to see him because he was having extreme pain. Now, I don't know any of this stuff's happening, and I decide that I'm going to go ahead and try to test him at a distance. So you and I are trained similarly. We studied applied kinesiology, which is a muscle testing technique. We studied nutrition response testing, which is a muscle technique, but those are all like done on an arm. And so I was like, okay, well, what if I put my thumb and my index finger together, and what if I test to see what the heck is going on with my dad? And so that's how Quantum came to be, is I was trying to figure out what the heck was happening because I couldn't visit him. And I'd heard other practitioners say, muscle testing can be done at a distance. I'm like, well, that's interesting. So I tried, and I found out that he was having issues with his bladder. And I've done paperwork on my father. I've worked on him for over a decade. I knew his case really well. I knew that he loves to make kidney stones. I don't know why, but he's a kidney stone maker. And it appeared that there was a kidney stone aggravating his bladder. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. The next morning, my mother calls me and she's like, Lisa, the craziest thing happened last night. Your dad was in a lot of pain and he actually called with his cell phone 911. And she told me the story I just told you guys. And I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting because I actually tested dad from my house and found out his kidney stones are acting up. And this is a supplementation that could break up kidney stones. And I think we should bring it to him, not because we couldn't see him, but my mother was bringing him food because, what do they serve you at the hospital? Trash, cupcakes, pancakes.
Absolute crap.
I mean, stuff my father doesn't eat, Jello, pudding, like just junk, And then the crazy
that
part
was my
is,
question. How are you going to get supplements in? She's dropping off food. She can't even give it.
They were really cool. Like if you want to bring your family member Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts or pizza or McDonald's, they will bring the McDonald's, which to me is like, fast food's poison, right? So they'll bring the poison to your loved one and they'll feed it to them. And so I was like, okay, well, my mom's bringing my dad organic Greek yogurt and homemade soup and homemade stew and all that stuff. So I was like, Mom, we should just put nutrients. We should put vitamins and minerals in his breakfast and he'll get it. And so we did. And so I would quantum nutrition test to see how he was healing. Obviously, we would talk to him too because we had cell phone access. We just couldn't physically see him, which was so hard. And we would put some added nutrients into his breakfast and he got better. And the docs were very pleased on how fast he healed, and the rehab techs were very pleased, and the physical therapists very pleased how he progressed. And then finally, a month into his stay, the governor of Florida opened up hospitals for visitation again. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to quantum nutrition test him at home, and then I'm going to go to the hospital and push on his arm and see what I found. It was completely interesting to see what I found testing with quantum nutrition testing correlated with what I found when I actually physically saw him. Mm-hmm. At this time in the practice, we had a lot of people calling us that their doctors wouldn't see them because they had COVID. Their doctors wouldn't see them because they had this condition. The doctors would only see them if they were in a life-threatening situation. And so we applied the technology to them and they improved. So it was awesome.
So awesome. And to piggyback on that, my husband and I, we've been in private practice for 14 years, but last fall we transitioned over to be strictly virtual. And after 14 years of pushing on arms, muscle testing, and now going over to strictly virtual muscle testing, I'm getting the same results, if not better.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like you don't get lesser results just because it's at a distance. Yeah. And someone's like, that's kind of different. And wow, what do you mean? I'm like, hey, yeah, I mean, you keep doing what you're doing. You're going to keep getting what you're getting.
Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, us as practitioners, we're taking a history that's 30 minutes plus, right? We're actually talking to the patient. And a lot of times it's the first time ever. We're taking their data, we're analyzing their data, we're quantum nutrition testing their data, and then we're coming up with a personalized program based on what that person needs to heal. And we're not using medications or things with side effects or experimental drugs or cutting pieces of them. We're using whole food nutrition, vitamins, minerals, carbon technology, and so on to rebalance the body. And then we're holding their hand. I mean, think about who else is doing this. I don't know any other profession that's doing this. We're holding their hand through the process and coaching them on lifestyle and coaching them on movement, coaching them on, like, instead of this thing, try this thing, coaching them on, okay, things didn't move in the right direction. We don't just say, bye, see ya. We continue to work with them. And someone asked me the other day, and you probably have similar results, like, out of all your cases, what percentage get better? And I'm like, I don't know, is it too bold to say 98% and the other couple percent is because someone's not compliant? I mean, is that too bold?
Nope. I mean, we talk about that all the time. If you do look at realistic expectation results, a practice like ours wouldn't have grown to the size that it got unless you were actually delivering the goods.
Right.
If you don't deliver the goods, nobody talks about you.
Yeah.
And so word of mouth referral is how we marketed for like the first 8 years of our 14-year career. And then when you do look at medication or treatment protocol, expectation, and results of people getting better. I mean, I always just, it blows my mind where, you know, some of the drugs we cannot mention, you know, if they get 3% result, you know, like, woo, that's so good, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, what was the result? Oh, it made the person live 5 days longer. Oh, live in agony because they were being poisoned through the treatment. You know, I'm just like, when you look at, like you said, results driven, I'm over here going, hey, patients, accepting new patients, for those of you who want to participate in your healing, I will not take responsibility for lack of results for someone who didn't do the work. You know, and we say that out of love because you came here for this.
Right.
And so if you want this, I'm here to tell you how to get this. People who do what we tell them to do, get this. Yeah, and again, so I don't think that's bold at all. I don't think that's, you know, I mean, it is what we expect to see by the compliant patient.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. What is the best way for people to get a hold of Dr. Lauren?
Are we able to put links here? We have our website, insidehealth.com. We can provide another link. We have,
I can do it.
Can we do links like that? Yep.
Yeah.
We have a master class coming up, or excuse me, not a master class, but a 6-week course. Our goal, we're very passionate about trying to help people. We believe all people could improve their lifestyle and get a ton of great results. And then of course there are folks like you and me who had their health in shambles and you need specific one-on-one individualized care. And again, how I want to make sure everyone knows how they have the ability to connect with you. You have 4 amazing practitioners between myself and my practitioner. I mean, we're all quantum 3 level trained. And so no matter if they are in Colorado or in Florida or anywhere, you have the ability to work with any of us virtually. But for you, Dr. Lisa, what if someone is like me? What if they are a chiropractor? What if they are a holistic mama? What if they are looking for ways to learn how to use on either their family or their practice quantum nutrition testing?
Yeah, I mean, to me, anybody who wants to learn how to do quantum nutrition testing is welcome to train. And actually, it is crazy to tell you that the holistic mom, the elementary school teacher, the health coach are usually easier to train students than the doctor of chiropractic. For whatever reason, my docs make it more complicated. They're like, it has to be harder. I'm like, no, it's not harder. The sign, to me, a sign of a good course is it's efficient, effective, and it's easy to learn. And so my viewpoint is our society is broken. Our kids are not supposed to outlive their parents. I have a young daughter, and I'm very, very concerned that she's not going to have healthy kids and healthy people to have families with, you know, to like grow older with. And so I'm willing to train whoever wants to be trained. And so to me, the best way to do that is in the academy. So qntacademy.com, and they can start learning online and then come to Florida for a live class and learn how to apply this technology and help people get better naturally.
Now you have an amazing opportunity that we're all going to be at in December. Who is able to come to that experience?
Yeah. So I think you're coming to the Quantum Leap into Health this December through 13th through 15th in Orlando, Florida. The weather's going to be beautiful, but more importantly, we're bringing the best of the best together, world-renowned speakers on how to improve health naturally, especially children's health naturally. And so it's open to the holistic moms, it's open to chiropractors, naturopaths, nurses, anyone who wants to learn, but more not just learn, but also apply this technology, apply these principles to their client base, to their patient base, or start a practice to help people heal naturally.
So fun. Can't wait. Going to be an amazing experience of, like you just described, all the things that we're going to learn. And from my perspective, those opportunities also fill my Dr. Cup, my practitioner Cup, because it's awesome to be in the same room with your colleagues who are doing the same things across the country. So wouldn't miss it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, my goal with any of our collaborations is that we want people to have resources. We want people to, I mean, if you're not already following Dr. Lisa, her husband, Dr. Jason Dean, if you're not following them on social media or on their email newsletters, you need to do that. I really feel in today's world of the need to connect with like-minded people to have as resources for health and for business. I mean, I don't know about you, but even in today's world, I like to be on similar page as, my mechanic, because I don't know if you're going to let me in the door if I need my car done, if I don't have the cupcake. So I'm going to need to make sure you're not going to make me not have to have the cupcake. I live in Colorado,
Right.
remember? So I got to
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Colorado is a little crazy.
And so, just collaboration with like-minded people and have resources in a time. I don't know if there's ever been a time we need bigger, better, more informed, more outspoken health resources. Because if you don't have resources in the times we're living in, it doesn't have to be that way because you have the resources. And think of all the colleagues we have across the country, Lisa, that you've trained.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, and it's not just chasing symptoms. It's not just, why is someone bloated or why is someone tired or like covering those symptoms up. It's actually looking for what occurred. How do we handle that naturally? And then what does the person do to not only not have that symptom anymore, but improve their health? I know for you had your own health challenge.
Mm-hmm. And symptom relief is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, if people stop there, I say this every day, we celebrate the symptom relief, but that's not what we're going for. That's not only what we're going for. Thank God for it. And yet now we get to the things that are going to create longevity and health and life for decades to come.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what you do every day. That's what you have studied. That's what we all continue to study, right? I think some of our colleagues think they study a little bit and they know what they know and that's it. And I'm sure that you continue. I remember seeing you at a seminar recently. Like we can continue to learn and continue to increase our knowledge and continue to grow because there's new tools out there that help. But there's also new data that we need to apply to our patients so that they can get better. Mm-hmm. And you only know that by attending seminars and continue to grow and expand and get better. So I appreciate that you guys continue to improve things, even though, I think some docs just get stale and stuck in their old ways.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's, again, if I'm going to keep doing this work, I have to, we can't give from an empty cup. And so, there is no plan B. This is the plan. Like there's too many people who need us. And I know, that. So also when people talk with me about like, what do you do? What it is that you do? How do you train? And what do you do? Whenever they ask me about how they get connected with you, Lisa, I mean, I'm always just like, here's the website. Did you say you provided that in the chat?
Yep, it's in the chat.
Your landing page. And so my honest recommendation would be, if you have any interest in training with Dr. Lisa, that, hey, if her next live seminar down in Orlando isn't for a while, schedule that, but don't wait for that. She's got plenty of things that are online resources that you can be doing you're starting your training at a distance. And then as soon as the in-person level 1 quantum nutrition testing level is available, then you have the ability to get down to Orlando to do that training.
Absolutely. I think my I don't want to say my favorite students, but my favorite way that students learn is they start in the QNT, the Quantum Nutrition Testing Academy. They start learning the technology. They start learning how to handle mold illness, how to handle, parasitic problems, handle fungus, handle food, handle chemical toxicity, metal toxicity. They start learning how to handle those things. And level 1 doesn't mean easy. Level 1 just means this is how you start with a client. This is
Right.
how
Yeah.
you start with a patient. This is how you figure out where to even begin. And then level 2 is, okay, you started and things are rolling. What do you do when the patient gets stuck? What do you do when the patient gets worse? What do you do when something changes? And then into level 3 is, okay, now your person's doing really good. And most people leave us at that point. But that's when really true healing and wellness and prevention can happen. And so how do you handle the old head injuries and the concussions and the falls off the horses and the slips on the ice? How do you improve cardiovascular wellness and do whatever we can to prevent heart disease and strokes and that kind of thing? What do you do for a female who wants to have a family? How do you get her ready and super healthy during pregnancy or before pregnancy? What do you do with babies, for holistic healthcare for babies? What do you do for kids, and so on? So it doesn't, level 1 isn't basic, like, hey, it's level 1 and it's like kindergarten. Level 1 is, this is how you start with the quantum nutrition testing technology, and then everything builds on top of that.
Well, and I just, it never failed that no matter what level we were at with you, Lisa, that, we were given, regardless of how long you've been in practice. I mean, again, for the people who are brand new at practice, or they're not even in practice, but they want to start training with you. But I guess I'm here to say, if, you're 5, 10, 15 years into practice, like we are, that every time that we would train with you, that we always got clinical pearls, like it was always like something, a nugget or 2 or 3 or 4 that we would take back to practice, and it would be a game changer either for our own health or for, a handful of patients' health. Because that as we're all sitting there in class, we're writing down the names of, 10 different patients that I needed this clinical pearl for this person, and so again, no matter where you're at, like you said, it's not easy, medium, hard. It's how we get started.
Right.
So,
yeah, absolutely. I had a Egyptian medical doctor in my last class, and I'm thinking, okay, this is cool. I find that international medical doctors tend to be more open-minded to things like parasites and chemical toxicity and stuff like that. And it was interesting because I was thinking, okay, what is he going to learn? What does he know? Like, what did he come with? What does he know? And then what is he going to learn? And he was like super excited. He found his people, like, to me, if you're in the medical profession and you don't feel like you belong there, but you want to come to the holistic, if you want to come to the holistic land, but some of them are a little tentative because they don't feel like they're going to be well received, absolutely, you're welcome. You're our people. And he right away signed up for level 2, and he's like, this is great. This is what I was looking for.
Awesome.
And super happy to have him. I've been training more and more nurses that also know that the sickness care model has always been broken. And so they're really fun to me. Like, if you're a medical doctor or a DO or a nurse and you step into, like, you totally leave medical land and you step completely in holistic land, you're absolutely on our team. You don't have to feel unwelcomed or awkward or anything, because I remember when my mom worked with us, she was like, well, but I'm not a holistic doctor like you. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't ever say that I was in a surgical ward. I was in a surgical suite and I saw this surgery go bad, or my mom at one point was working with HIV patients, or she was working in the ER, or she was working in radiology.
Sure.
She's seen the things that have blown up. She's seen people with bullet wounds and all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, Mom, you've seen medical land. You worked in medical land for like 40 years. You know how broken it is. And now you can take what you've learned over those 4 decades and apply it in holistic land, apply it over here and tell people, like, okay, this is what you have going on, and this is the medical treatment for it. But every single medical treatment, every medication always has a side effect.
Always.
And you can come over to here with us, and we're going to look for the cause. We're going to help rebalance the body naturally with no side effects. And oh, by the way, we've seen conditions and diseases and labels just, they're not there anymore. Not because we're curing or treating or diagnosing, but we're rebalancing the body naturally using the quantum nutrition technology to help people's own bodies heal. We're not healing them. We're helping their body heal.
And I love how you say that, where, you know, if they have seen the things in the medical world. One of my dear friends is Helena Miller, who is a huge, she is with a huge practice with Dr. Jean-Guy up in Michigan, and quantum nutrition trained practitioner. And she lived in the land of respiratory therapy for 20 years. And so what do you think she heard through all the COVID recommendations? That goes against protocol. That's against protocol. She knew like all the things, right? You know, just that you what you would do in the best interest of the patient. And it sure wasn't what they recommended through COVID. You know, my training before pre-med, before chiropractic, before holistic nutrition was dietetics. I would be a registered dietitian, except for the fact that I did not get licensed because I did not do the 2-year internship. I did the whole program and then withdrew because I was like, bing, this isn't working.
Well, just for people that don't understand why, because some people are like, well, why'd you do that education and then not use it? Let them know why you withdrew. I know why you withdrew.
Yeah. I mean, when you go through the protocol, and I was also not well at the time of my undergraduate career, you know, the age of 19 to 24 or whatever it was. And here I am wanting to go into health. And I had been a high school competitive athlete, and you wish you knew then what you know now, and from your athletic career, right? And I was just like, wait a minute, I thought I was here for this. I think that was it. I thought I was here for this, to learn how to help people heal. And you're telling me in order to get the last part of my dietetics degree and get licensure, I need a 2-year internship in a nursing home? Got it. What am I going to be doing there? Well, you're going to be blending food so we can put their medications in there. I was like, nope, no, I won't. I'm out.
And then they weren't teaching what we teach, right?
No, everything I was taught would have kept people sick. Everything.
The pudding and the pancakes, and it's okay,
Low
divide
fat.
your plate like this and have this much carbs and this much
Correct.
dessert. And
oh yeah, let's talk about macros and micros and calories in and calories out, And so I feel really confident stepping up to the plate, talking about food and the contradictions in what we teach compared to basically that right there. The registered dietetics program is medical nutrition. That is the medical nutrition protocol, what they teach. And so you can also see, what do they serve in the hospitals? It's all the things that they would have taught, And so I'm always, it's okay. I'm completely confident with yes, I recommend completely against what the FDA, guides you to eat. And so I see huge value in that with our other colleagues and practitioners across the country who have a medical experience. I mean, we all know, like you said, some of the MDs who okay, they have certain prescribing, or they have the license to look into some other things that maybe there are times where I wish I could just do that myself and I didn't have to go, like that kind of a thing. And yet they handle it with diet, lifestyle, supplementation, and detox.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked at what they were feeding my father, even when he went to rehab. I'm like, they're giving you what? Like, that's so inflammatory, and that causes blood sugar issues, and that's all white flour, and that's all pure sugar, and that's even when he wasn't able to swallow because of the drooping, and they were giving him Ensure. Like this just filled with synthetic vitamins and high fructose corn syrup. And I'm like, I don't know, Dad, maybe you should fast instead of drinking that. Like, it was just, I was appalled. Like, part of me was like, okay, like they'll have I don't know, some healthy meat, and they'll have some healthy vegetable and maybe a salad or something. And I was just, what do you mean they're serving you chicken pot pie? What do you mean they're serving you brownies and cookies and pudding and jello and lasagna, and it was just shocking. And I'm like, okay, well, to me, ideally, if someone has to go to the hospital, now there's a time and a place for the hospital, right? Like if someone had a bone sticking out their arm, or a broken bone, or is life-threatening, they couldn't breathe, they're having a heart attack, they need emergency surgery, absolutely don't call us for that, right? That's not what we do. Go handle the emergency, That's why it's an emergency room. Handle the emergency, and then hopefully we can help you when you get out. We can help you so you don't experience that again.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can figure out what we can do preventatively. But yeah, sometimes people are like, well, if a bone sticking out of your arm, can you help me with that? I'm like, nope, I'm not a surgeon.
Nope.
Go to the surgeon, do their thing.
Don't roll up here. Right. Well, the problem with medical recommendations after, again, modern medicine for handling emergency scenarios is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Holy cow, I cannot believe you put that person back together. Like, whoa, car accidents and all those things. The problem is that they take that same type of medicate, patch them up, cover it up, cover up the bandage, cover up the pain, cover up we're covering up too much pain. We are either, I don't know, we are not putting our focus, the focus is just on the wrong thing. We don't have the focus on the thing that created the pain. We don't have the focus on, I'm not talking accidents. We don't have, but other things, the pain that is associated with degenerative disease. And then we also have blinders on over how, again, the air, food, and water is systematically poisoning us. So, I feel like we should have maybe we just need a systematic poisoning occasion between the two of us, Lisa. So yeah, I feel like that.
So many topics to discuss. And by blinders, you mean society has
these blinders on, and that's all by design. They want us to have blinders on so we don't look at the problems in the food, air, and water that is contributing to the disease processes that then medicine is, coming to the rescue with these amazing, wonderful drugs. And they're not so wonderful when they're just covering up the symptom of something that is a degenerative process started by your diet.
Yeah. And not just covering up the symptom, causing more problems, right? Every single medication has a side effect. My daughter was at gymnastics the other day and she drank all her water. So we give her distilled water. We have a distiller at the house. We live on a well on purpose because we don't want city water with the chemicals and all this stuff. And she's like, Mommy, I go, well, where did the water come from? She goes, oh, well, I just filled up my water at the water fountain. And I was like, Leah, get the water from our house. And she's like, but Mommy, the water fountain, she thinks it's cool to use a water fountain, right? I go, okay, well, I prefer that you don't drink pieces of toilet paper. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, the city water has pieces of toilet paper and it can have parasites and bacterias and different chemicals and medications that don't break down. You could go to ewg.org and look up your zip code and see what's in the water, everything from chlorine to bromelain to estrogen to psych drugs to antidepressants. I go, I don't want you drinking that, honey. And she looked at me. She's like, there's toilet, she's 10. So she's like, there's toilet paper in my water. I'm like, that's one of the things in city water.
That's a great way to put it. I have to tell you one of the one like that. From a female, I have an older daughter. So my daughter is several years older than yours, and so of course, what is a young girl going into teenage land? Of course, she's excited. I mean, she's excited about about blooming into a lady. And so I'm having that same conversation, but we are talking about female hormones and we're talking about female health. And right, because my daughter's a dancer. And so she is with, the 15 to 18-year-old dancers. So she has these beautiful, feminine, wonderful, I mean, they're young women. They're not kids anymore. She's by the young women. And my daughter doesn't like the idea of the things that would hurt her female hormones. And, because when she gets mad over why won't I let you drink this red dye number 40 drink? Well, let's talk about your hormone, and like you said, you got to find the thing with your kid that opens their eyes over what connects. Toilet paper in the water connected with Leah. And so I was like,
Mommy.
I know, what do you mean? And so honestly, I was like, oh, that got my daughter's name is Gwen. I was like, oh, that got Gwen's attention. I wasn't trying to force feed that to her, but she wants to dance like these older girls who are no longer adult dancer. And so I'm like, well, then let's talk about female hormones and let's talk about, whatever it is, whatever you have to use to connect with your kid, to connect with your patient, over the thing. What is it, the thing that they want? And it's not about depriving ourselves or our kids. It's about having reality over the reason this is a better choice is because of whatever.
And then they learn and they tell their friends. And then if you try as an adult, you try to do something that you taught them against because you're not thinking or you're doing whatever, they'll call you out on it.
Point you out. Oh,
like, Mommy, don't drink out of the water fountain. I'm like, but I'm so thirsty and there's nothing. Mommy, there's toilet paper in there. I'm like, damn it, you're right.
Oh man, it's like I heard that somewhere. Oh yeah, I told you that. Oh, so no, I know it's fun and it's challenging. And again, I do hope that means that our communication with our patients is not just telling you this to deprive you. You told me this is the goal that you want. If you want this goal, then we talk about supplementation. Why are they taking the supplements that they are, and why are we changing things in the diet and the food? And it's so fun. It's so rewarding to do what we do, isn't it?
It is awesome. And some people look at it as depriving. I look at it like, okay, so we're going to get your body working better. So when you want to go to Italy in your 60s, to me, you should be able to go to Italy in your 60s and walk on the cobblestone streets and go uphill and downhill and your knees are good and you have energy and all that stuff. To me, it's deprivation, in the future when you've abused your body by the medical model so much and eaten have consumed the standard American diet, and now you can't do the thing because your body's too broken. To me, that's deprivation.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe going through that fast food line right now is not a great idea, or maybe sticking a tampon in an area that is, like the tampon's been bleached or has a chemical scent on it, which would disrupt hormones and cause future fertility problems, or it's convenient to take the oral birth control because it seems convenient, but it causes deprivation in the future. With now I have the 20-something-year-old that wants to have babies and she's been on birth control for however many years, and now she can't get pregnant because her system has been so compromised by these oral contraceptives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I guess that when someone's like, well, why do you care? Why do you care? I care because those are the things that lead to the systematic poisoning that your toxin bucket just keeps going up, 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 up. And then how does it reflect in your life? Then it reflects in your fertility in a few years. And I'm very much about, like, in our golden years, 50 or 60 and older, of losing
50 is golden years?
I was going to say, that's not that far away. No, 60 and older, 70 and older, where you are stealing, like you said, from your future health, because when we lose our mobility, we also lose our independence. And so I feel like that's a drum I'm beating all the time over talking with my folks who are in that category of you do now what you do for the preservation of, like you said, all the fun things that we want to do in Italy and traveling the world. And I'm sorry, you can't do that 1 month before your Italy trip. You're doing that years and decades before your Italy trip.
It's a lifetime of choices. Yes. And the choices either add up to you can walk and you can play with your grandkids and you can explore life and you can stay out of hospitals, or it's the other, like you can no longer walk and you have dementia and Alzheimer's and chronic disease and the C word and just all that mess.
Yeah. I love where you see the pictures of two people the same age and drastic body type differences, and same age, different choices.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about choices. Either choices lead to health or choices take away from health. Yeah. And you're right. It could be a challenging conversation to have with a kid that really nothing hurts on them. They see like we were at a store yesterday and I'm like, Leah, look at all this candy. And I'm like, is there any candy here you haven't had? Which is majority because I don't give her candy. And she's like, oh, and she picks up this thing of M&Ms and she's like, can I have this? I'm like, well, read it. And she's like, oh, well, it's got red this and yellow number dye this, and it's got this sugar and it has this stuff. And she just puts it back.
Yeah. Not interested. But she's also not yet addicted. Right? Like, I mean,
she played with organic. I bought her. I had the parenting moment one Easter, and I'm like, she's never had like jelly beans, So I got the organic jelly beans.
Right.
And she ended up, and I put a little bit in her Easter basket, and everything else was like socks and toys and coloring books and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't know. I had jelly beans. Like, she should be able to have jelly beans. So I got organic jelly beans. And when I ordered it from like Whole Foods or something like that, and it arrived, and it was mostly okay. And so I put a little bit in her Easter basket, you know, not wanting to deprive her. There's that word again. And long story short, she found out where I stashed it. I should have just thrown it away, ate the rest of the bag, and in the middle of the night started puking up this like fluorescent pink all over our new mattress, by the way, that we didn't have a cover on yet.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, all moms, you guys know you should get like the new mattress and then put the mattress cover. But since it was our bed, I'm like, okay, we'll get it. But I kept forgetting at the store or whatever. And of course, she doesn't feel good, comes into our bed and vomits out organic pink jelly beans all over the organic mattress. And she doesn't want jelly beans. I'm like, hey, do you want some jelly beans? No, mommy, never again.
No, never again, right? Well, lesson learned. No, I know. I mean, yeah, information is power. And when they get to an old enough age, it's like, well, you had that experience. What did you learn? You know, I mean, so yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing because as they get older, you know, my kid's about to have his driver's license, right? Like, oh, when he's out the door, he's going to youth group and he's going to swim practice. And, you know, I mean, they have choices to make in the food department. So natural consequences too.
And then we just hope that we've taught them enough to make good choices. And I'm sure they'll make some bad choices, and then their bodies will tell them that it was a bad choice.
Right. Yeah. And at least I do think they will know why. They won't wonder. Because I grew up, I had years of wondering, why am I so sick? I literally never even looked at my diet because no one ever pointed that out to me, you know. So no, Dr. Lisa, this was so great. I feel like we could go on for 6 more hours. So in respect for your time, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. Is there a way that people can ask questions if they have it after the fact or no, or if they come to us, we can get them to you? I mean, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, sure. So I encourage you guys to check Dr. Lauren's page, insidehealth.com out. If you need help from her, reach out to her. She's an amazing practitioner and she can help you if you're willing to be helped. But naturally, through natural means, with any kind of health condition, health concern that you have. Thank you, Lauren, for allowing me to be a guest on your show, and reach out to either of us if we can help you with if you're bloated, if you're tired, if you're puffy, if you have kids that want to drink toilet water, water fountain water, or they want to eat fast food every day, or we can help you out.
All the things. So yes, we'll be excited to however we can help. And again, thank you so much, Dr. Lisa.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Good night, everybody.